What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in to break down all of the Season 15 changes that we currently know of, arriving in the game on August 24th, which is less than a month away. Of course, the theme and the core content for the season is something that's going to be revealed in a couple of weeks' time on the Bungie showcase. But if you're wondering about adjustments to the game, there are a lot of system changes, sandbox adjustments, new weapons, changes to vendors, subclasses, and more that we already know of. So I thought it would be good to jump in and talk about the technical changes that we can expect to see. And as always, if you guys enjoy the video, a rating down below really does help us out on the channel. But now, let's get into it. And we should start out by saying that Season 15 starts on Tuesday, August 24th as far as we know. This is also when Bungie planned to have a showcase for the future of Destiny 2 content, so it's possible they're going to talk about how Season 15 will lead into Season 16 with the Witch Queen expansion. And so far as we know right now, we'll be getting that content reveal as well as diving into the Season 15 content on the same day, so that's going to be a busy one, and I'll keep you posted when it rolls around. For Season 15 changes though, initially, let's speak about weapons, and as we've discussed previously, we are going to see the first batch of legendary stasis weapons introduced to the game. We don't know an awful lot about what these stasis weapons will be like, but presumably Bungie will be expanding this stasis element in order to justify the introduction of that element on the weapon type, right? So that's going to be one of the more interesting elements as far as weapons go. However, there will be a couple of new Iron Banner weapons as well. So there's going to be a new pulse rifle called the Forger's Pledge, as well as a sidearm called Peace Bond. We don't know anything about the archetypes or things like that just yet, but they're going to be available through vendor packages, bounties, matches, and the seasonal Iron Banner quest. They'll also be introducing the new Iron Forerunner armor set, so it'll be cool to grab some new rewards in the playlist. In terms of reprise weapons and rewards for Nightfalls, Bungie have revealed that they're going to be introducing 2 new weapons from Destiny 1. And so for Nightfall drops, they're going to be reintroducing the Comedian Shotgun, as well as the Hothead Rocket Launcher. Obviously, they'll be coming back with brand new perks. And on top of this, they're going to be introducing some reward rotation changes. And for Nightfalls, we're going to see 2 rewards featured on a given week. Bungie have said that we'll see 1 old weapon and 1 new or reprised weapon for the season. So every week there will be 2 weapons up for grabs. For the season's ritual weapon, so things like the Salvager's Salvo, Bungie have said they'll be adding them to the vendor's reputation reward screen. And so instead of earning them via a quest, they'll actually be unlocks on the vendor's reputation screen, with additional weapon ornaments available from Shaxx, Zavala, and the Drifter in the same way that they are right now. It's just a case that it'll be a progress reward as opposed to a specific quest drop. So that's going to be interesting, but also, for Banshee, Bungie have said that they're going to be re-expanding his potential weapon pool, and so a few weapons that have been taken out of his inventory right now should be returned, and all of them will have the fixed masterwork slot, so no longer will we be picking up any weapons that can't be masterworked. And then we get on to the weapon sandbox changes. So firstly, they say they're planning a large rework of fusion rifles, and that'll include adjustments to perks and mods, as well as custom tuning to most exotic fusion rifles, which will include Vex Mythoclast. They also say they're planning small changes that specifically touch on priming and cleaning up targets with breach grenade launchers, so probably a small nerf right there. However, we are going to see scout rifles and hand cannons in PvE getting a buff, specifically to combat minor enemies in high-end content taking too many shots to kill. But there'll also be buffs to machine guns in PvE in a similar way. Bungie have said that they're planning a noticeable change for machine guns across the board. But they've also announced that for the special ammo economy, they've got some small changes planned that should reduce the amount of special ammo floating around in the Crucible. And then finally, for exotics that they've spoken about for the moment, Anarchy is going to be seeing some kind of a nerf. But they've also said that they want to give players more reasons to use exotic primary weapons in high-end PvE content. So it looks like exotic primaries are going to see a wider kind of change in overall buff. And all of this is of course separate to the brand new weapons that we're going to see as part of the season. So safe to say there are quite a few changes to expect on the front of weapons. For seasonal events though, it's worth mentioning that Festival of the Lost is going to be a featured event inside of Season 15. As always, it should be dropping around Halloween. Bungie have confirmed that the armor set coming to Festival this year will be the dinosaur-themed set that they shared concept art for a while ago. And then a bit later on in the season, we should be seeing the Dawning event, because of course Season 15 is going to be a bit longer than what we've gotten used to. So that'll be the winter event, and then there is the minor possibility of us seeing Moments of Triumph. But nonetheless, we should see at least 2 events during Season 15, potentially a third if Moments of Triumph is going to be a thing for this year. Now though, Bungie have announced that they're going to be making some changes to armor synthesis. And they've said effective at the start of Season 15, we'll deprecate the passively earned world currency Synth Strand. This is what we've been using to purchase bounties from Ada 1, but in its place, the bounties will be purchasable for 10,000 Glimmer instead. So they will be removing a lot of the grind associated with actually picking up the bounties. It won't totally change the armor synthesis experience, but it'll make acquiring those bounties in the first instance a little bit less painful than they are right now. And then we get on to updates and reworks to various playlists. So Commander Zavala and the Vanguard is going to see a reputation rework which brings it in line with Crucible and Gambit. So Zavala will have a series of different items featured as rewards at various ranks. And that means we'll no longer need Vanguard tokens, and it's worth turning all of those in before August the 24th. And we're going to be able to earn Vanguard reputation by completing strikes, nightfalls, as well as battlegrounds from back in Season of the Chosen. Additionally, Vanguard will see activity streaks, so by continuously playing inside of the Vanguard playlist, we'll be able to get a streak bonus going. This will increase the amount of Vanguard reputation we're earning, of course granting us more rewards, but also Bungie have said that Zavala will be looking to host week-long reputation bonuses throughout the given season. And of course, given that they're switching up how the ritual weapon works, these Vanguard streak bonuses are going to help us get access to that weapon sooner. At the same time, Bungie will also be referring to Gambit, Vanguard, and Crucible as the main ranking system, and the names Valor and Infamy will actually be retired. On top of this, bounties will no longer provide reputation as rewards, but primarily focus on XP. And so that is going to mix up how we interact with those vendors and those different ranking systems. And then for Grandmasters specifically, they say that later on in Season 15, the Grandmaster Nightfall catch-up node will become available, and each Grandmaster Nightfall will be available if the fireteam leader hasn't completed the Gilding Triumph for that strike during the season. In other words, we can play each of the featured strikes for the season to earn the Gilded title, and once it's gilded, the catch-up node will no longer be available. So the catch-up node will essentially act as a mechanic to allow us to get access to strikes we haven't yet completed in order to gild Conqueror. Up next though, let's cover the changes coming to armor and those in relation to mods in the game. And firstly, we do have some adjustments to exotics. So for Shards of Galanor, they say they've increased the amount of super granted for hits, but the total super regain is now capped at 50%. So they're essentially going to be more effective, but only up to 50% of the super bar. For the Ursa Furiosa, they've capped the amount of super energy you can regain once your super ends at 50%. And then for Skull of Dire Ahamkara, they've increased the amount of super refunded per kill, but the total super gain is capped at 50%. But also for Phoenix Protocol, they've capped the super energy regain once the super ends at 50%. And Storm Dancer's Brace will also refund up to 50% of your super energy after your super ends, based on the number of kills. But also for Geomag Stabilizers, they've removed the sprint to top off your super. And so there are some somewhat significant changes to super regen pieces, but for the other class exotics and for the Hunters and Bombardiers, they say the bomb now has a secondary effect based on your subclass type, blind for arc, burn for solar, slow for stasis, and suppress for void. For Graviton Forfeit, they've increased the bonus invisibility duration. The melee regeneration speed now increases based on the number of enemies near you. And while you're invisible, your recovery is greatly increased, and your weapons reload more quickly. We've also got Lucky Pants right here with a bunch of changes. They've added intrinsic hand cannon holster mod, replacing previous functionality with the following. And so when you ready a fully loaded hand cannon that deals kinetic damage, or damage matching your subclass energy type, for a short time each hit against a combatant from that hand cannon increases the damage of the next shot. But for Titans and Precious Scars, it says they'll now also create a burst of healing and bonus recovery around you whenever you kill an enemy with a weapon whose damage type matches your subclass type. And also Icefall Mantle will see the slower class ability recharge scaler removed. But also there are changes for Warlocks, and for Verity's Brow, they've changed it to trigger when you get a weapon kill that matches your subclass energy type, and they've increased the grenade damage bonus to 20% per stack, up from 10%. For the Stag, it will grant damage reduction to allied guardians standing in your rifts, 25% against combatants, and 15% against players. That's pretty cool. But for Prometheum Spur, they've added the functionality that while standing in a rift, solar weapon kills give you class ability energy, and when your class ability energy is full, solar weapon kills consume that energy and spawn a combination of healing and empowering rifts at the target's location. Feel free to share any thoughts you have on exotic armor tuning down below, but next we have details on a bunch of changes to mods. mods. And first up we have traction. They've added a sprint turn speed scaler option, and they've allowed values 0.3 to 0.8. They've also removed the traction mod, and then added additional controller sensitivity options. 1 through 10 sensitivity is the same as before, but 11 through 20 increases over that. And they've added an ADS sensitivity modifier, and allowed values from 0.5 to 1.5. And so traction is no longer needed. But next we have changes to other mod types, and for Ammo Finder, it says they now have an increased chance to spawn ammo and kills with primary weapons, and a further increased chance with exotic primaries. For Scavenger, multiple copies of Scavenger mods of the same type will no longer stack. And then they speak about Holster, and they say it's a new type of leg armor mod that will gradually reload stowed weapons of the matching type over time. Multiple copies of Holster mods of the same type will increase the rate that ammo is reloaded. On top of this, Holster mods will affect essentially every weapon type in the game, with the exception of Eriana's Vow, but also rocket launchers, breech-loaded grenade launchers, and bows. That's going to be pretty cool, but next we have some changes to Warmind cells. For base Warmind cells, they say they've reduced the radius of the explosion effect range of Warmind cells from 10 to 6 meters. They've also reduced the damage of the explosion of Warmind cells. They've increased the mod cost of global reach to 3, but also reduced the amount of radius increase from 20 to 10 meters. And then for cellular suppression, they've reduced the duration of the suppressing effect when using them from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. We also have the Wrath of Rasputin though, and they've reduced the bonus solar damage, which was previously 100 to 200, but will now be 25 to 100. But there are also going to be some changes to elemental wells. And so elemental armaments now has increased chance to spawn an elemental well based on the tier of the enemy defeated, and the Font of Might's base duration has been increased from 10 seconds, and they've increased the damage bonus provided from 10 to 25%. So safe to say, on top of all of the other changes we've got for Season 15, there are a fair few that we're going to see for armor and mods specifically. But now let's move over to the conversation about Trials of Osiris. Before the end of the year, they've said they want to release a Trials of Osiris reward structure rework. This will affect both the rewards on offer, but also the matchmaking paradigms, to change up how the playlist feels in general and what kind of teams players are matching with and when. That's something we're awaiting more details on, but this is also where we're going to see the update to 3-peaking. And essentially, emotes will be disabled in Trials of Osiris and competitive playlists, and players won't be able to use a third-person weapon if it doesn't currently have ammo. So that's going to reduce the frequency of 3-peaking opportunities inside of PvP modes. Joe Blackburn had said as well that they will be revealing more information about the adjustments to Trials on that showcase on the 24th. When it comes to Sandbox, there are also a lot of changes coming for subclasses and abilities. I will link a full breakdown down below, but the short version is that Bungie are breaking melee actions into 3 inputs. So there'll be auto melee, which is the standard one we have now, but also charged melee to activate the main ability when cooled down, and uncharged, which will only address that uncharged melee. So we'll essentially be able to bind to those different versions of melees to different keys. They are also making it easier to break out of stasis freeze by letting us break out while airborne, but additionally shortening the breakout animation and camera transitions plus visual effects to make it a little bit less obnoxious. Then on top of this, they are nerfing weapons when sliding, so when in mid-slide, weapons will have reduced stability by 20 points, but they're also adding 15% pellet spread to shotguns and 1.5 times flinch. And that effect will happen to weapons every time we slide. For Titans though, they are buffing Rally Barricade to grant weapon buffs when standing behind them, so for any player standing behind a Rally Barricade, we'll get plus 30 stability, plus 10 range and minus 50 flinch. And they're also increasing the damage done to players who move through hostile Rally Barricades. Then there are the broader subclass changes, so for Behemoth, Shiver Strike is seeing its movement speed increased by 25%. That's to offset the nerf that we've seen this season. Also, Middle Tree Sunbreaker's Throwing Hammer will get increased time before it explodes, and they're increasing damage versus powerful PvE enemies by 50%. Fist of Havoc will also get a buff, increasing detonation radius by 14%, as well as reducing damage fall-off, and slam attack activation cost is being reduced from 21 to 18%. Middle Tree Strikers are also getting a duration increase for Inertia Override, and additionally sliding over ammo bricks will now grant 20% melee energy. And then we've got Ward of Dawn, which is being nerfed, and the bubble is essentially going to take more damage from bosses, reducing how long it will stand. And then for Hunters and Revenant, Silence and Squall will see its movement speed increased by 20%, and Withering Blade's speed and tracking will be buffed by 10%. Middle Tree Gunslinger will get its knife trick burn duration increased, and 6 shooters damage fall off is being reduced by 5 meters. But Arc Staff will get a series of buffs. The super duration is being increased, but also the heavy attack detonation radius has been increased by 1 meter, and damage versus PvE enemies is being buffed by 33%. Additionally, Deadly Reach duration is being increased, and then Middle Tree Arcstrider is going to see Tempest Strike trigger Lightning Weave, which can have its timer extended by dealing damage with any weapon. Finally, for Hunters, Spectral Blades will have damage reduction in Super reduced, with an additional reduction when invisible. The Spectral Blade Hunters will be a little bit less tanky. For Warlocks though, Shadebinder's Winter's Wrath will now have to shatter twice to kill many players in Supers. Top Tree Dawnblade will see reduced tracking and detonation size on Celestial Fire, but also Icarus Dash will now provide 1 air dodge every 4 seconds. So there are going to be some somewhat noticeable changes for Warlocks. There's also going to be a buff to Heat Rises, increasing its duration, with kills during the ability rewarding a bigger time extension. And then Middle Tree Dawnblade and Well of Radiance will see increased damage taken from bosses, but players inside of the well will now be immune to stasis, freeze, and slow. Additionally, Guiding Flame will get increased duration, and the damage buff is being increased by 5%. And then we've got Bottom Tree Dawnblade seeing a reduced delay before Phoenix Dive starts, and Igniting Touch now causes targets to explode and burn other nearby enemies. Middle Tree Stormcallers and Chaos Reach will see reduced beam damage radius on PvP by 20%, that essentially means less splash damage. And for Bottom Tree Stormcaller, Arc Soul will get a duration and rate of fire buff. Additionally, Electrostatic Surge will increase sprint speed near allies, and Landfall will fire 5 arc ground projectiles when cast. The very final light subclass change that we know of for the moment will increase Nova Warp damage against PvE enemies by 73%. So that's going to be a really significant buff, and Handheld Supernova will also get a PvE buff of 100% to damage. So it is very much a mixed bag when it comes to ability changes. Safe to say there are a lot of them coming up in Season 15. And then finally, for the moment at least, Bungie have announced a bunch of details about crossplay. So we're going to be able to fireteam up and match with players across all of the different platforms where Destiny is played, but by default, console and PC players won't be matchmaking together in the Crucible. However, players can invite console friends to join them on PC. And then in PvE modes like Strikes, there will be a mixed player pool, so we will be automatically matching players on console and PC. But Bungie are also introducing Bungie Names, and this will be a new nameplate that kind of travels with your Guardians on your Bungie account and takes over from platform gamer tags and things like that. And it means there will be a unified name for each Guardian, whether they're playing on the PC or Xbox version. Plus there are some other specifics to set up if you are looking to crossplay immediately in Season 15 when it goes live. So I'll link Bungie's blog post down below with all of the additional details about that. But for today, guys, that is what we have to round up inside of the video. So a lot of stuff to look forward to in Season 15, and as always, I'll be keeping you posted about the update right here on the channel. So if you are new around here, be sure to get subscribed. And you can also turn on notifications so I can keep you posted on everything related to the game. If you found the video useful today though, a rating does really help us out on the channel, and let us know what you're looking forward to in Season 15 launching later this month. But otherwise for today, as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll catch you all very soon.